Naya had spent years perfecting her disguise, crafting a life so far removed from the poverty of her past that even she sometimes believed the lie. She was the wife of Kofi Mensah, one of the wealthiest men in the city, a woman of grace and high status. But when she locked eyes with Kojo at the gala, all of it, her wealth, her name, her carefully built illusion, felt as fragile as glass. Kojo was no longer the dusty village boy who once mocked her. He stood before her in fine tailored clothes, holding a glass of whiskey like he belonged among the elite. But his smirk was the same. It dripped with the memory of who she truly was. Nya, he said, savoring her name. Or should I say Adzo? Her stomach clenched. I don't know what you're talking about. She lifted her chin, steady despite the panic curling in her gut. Kojo chuckled, stepping closer. Oh, you do. You've done well for yourself, I'll admit. But you can't erase the past, mud girl. She inhaled sharply. That name, that wretched name. He used to call her that when they were children, laughing as she scrubbed her skin raw to rid herself of the dirt that clung to her after a long day of work. Kojo leaned in, lowering his voice. I wonder what your husband would think if he knew the truth. That his refined, educated wife once slept on a straw mat in a mud hut. That she used to beg for scraps. Naya's pulse pounded. Leave me alone, Kojo. Oh, I will, he said, swirling his drink. For a price. And so it began. The blackmail. At first, Kojo was subtle. He asked for money, small amounts, something easy to brush off. Then he demanded more. Thousands at a time. He wanted fine clothes, a luxury car, access to places he'd never been allowed before. And Naya, desperate to protect her secret, gave in. But Kojo didn't just want money. He wanted power over her. He would whisper things at parties, just loud enough for her to hear. I miss the village, don't you? He would smirk when she was with Kofi, making her flinch under her husband's gaze. Then one night, Kojo pushed too far. Naya had been in her bedroom, combing through her jewelry box, when Kofi burst through the doors, face like thunder. What is this? He growled, throwing a piece of parchment onto the bed. She picked it up with trembling hands. It was a letter, one she had written to Kojo, begging him to stop. But at the bottom was a damning sentence that she hadn't written. I should have stayed in the village where I belonged. Naya's heart stopped. Kofi's eyes burned into hers. What does this mean? She scrambled for a lie. It's nothing, my love. Someone is trying to ruin me. It's a jealous woman from the social circle, I'm sure. I asked Kojo. Kofi cut her off. He said you two have history, that you're hiding something from me. Her blood ran cold. Kojo had gone too far, resisting him. That night, Nia stormed into Kojo's rented penthouse, slamming the door behind her. He sat on the couch, lazily sipping from a glass of brandy, entirely unbothered. You went to Kofi? She hissed. Are you insane? Kojo tilted his head. Relax, I didn't tell him anything, just enough to shake you. He set his drink down, standing. You look good when you're afraid, Adzo. It reminds me of home. Nia's stomach twisted. I will not let you ruin me, she seethed. Kojo smiled, stepping closer, trapping her against the door. Ruin you? No, no. I want to make you remember. You think you've buried your past, but you haven't. It's still inside you. He brushed a finger under her chin. And deep down, you know you and I are the same. She slapped his hand away. I am nothing like you. He laughed. Oh, but you are. He leaned in, breath warm against her ear. You think you're better than me because you married rich, but you lied your way here, just like I clawed my way up. Na clenched her jaw. Admit it, he continued. You like this, the thrill, the danger. I hate you, Kojo smirked. Hate is just another kind of passion, Adzo. She stormed out, vowing to cut him off, to tell Kofi something, anything, to rid herself of Kojo forever. But deep down, something in her trembled at the way his words sank into her skin. Because he wasn't entirely wrong. The breaking point came when Kojo demanded something Nia couldn't ignore, access to Kofi's financial accounts. No, she said firmly. Kojo tilted his head, amused. Then I suppose Kofi will find out everything. Nia gritted her teeth. You're a bastard. And you're a fraud, he said smoothly. We're perfect for each other. She had no choice. She played along, feeding Kojo small details, letting him believe he had her under his control. But something else was happening. The more she fought him, the more she realized she understood him. He was right. They were the same. And that's when she stopped resisting. She turned the game around. She started meeting him in secret, whispering her own plans. She made him think she was falling for him. And maybe, just maybe, she was. Together, they orchestrated the perfect heist. One night, when Kofi was celebrating his biggest business deal, his accounts were drained, his properties signed over in quiet transactions. By the time the sun rose, Naya and Kojo were gone. Kofi was left with nothing but betrayal. And somewhere in a distant land, Naya and Kojo lay on silk sheets, laughing, drowning in stolen riches. Because in the end, the only person who truly understood her darkness was the man who threatened to expose it.